pathetic. Do you think you can ever be happy? I'll ruin you. And this stupid wedding. You're such a joke. Those were the venomous words he spat as he smashed her wedding cake in front of everyone. Gasps filled the room, whispers of disbelief ricocheting from the stunned guests. He laughed at her shock, convinced he had destroyed her special day. But what he didn't know, what no one realized, was that she had a plan. Behind her calm smile, she had orchestrated a nightmare for him, a revenge so precise and ruthless that his moment of triumph would instantly turn to humiliation. Every second of his arrogance, every cruel gesture, was about to backfire. And when her plan unfolded, the man who thought he could break her would be the one left humiliated, shocked, and powerless. This is the story of betrayal, vengeance, and a woman who turned a public act of cruelty into her ultimate triumph. And today, it is being retold by me. Hello family, welcome back. Before we begin, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please, subscribe. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Every time you click that button, you're helping us share voices that would otherwise be forgotten and stories that deserve to be heard. And in the comments, tell us where you're watching from, because together, we are not just telling stories, we are keeping hope alive. When Sarah first met Ethan, she thought she had stepped into a fairy tale. He was confident without seeming arrogant, funny without trying too hard, and successful in ways that made people listen when he spoke. When he smiled at her across the cafe table on their first date, she thought, this is the kind of man people write stories about. And for a while, the story seemed perfect. Their wedding was elegant, but not extravagant, the kind of event people whispered about weeks afterward. Guests said they were meant to be. Ethan toasted her with a glass of champagne, his arm draped over her shoulder. To Sarah, he said, my lucky star, my reason to be better every day. The crowd applauded. Sarah blushed, feeling safe in his glow. In public, Ethan never missed a chance to praise her. At dinner parties, he pulled out her chair and said things like, my wife has the best taste. You should see how she designed our living room. He posted photos of her online with captions like, how did I get so lucky? But behind closed doors, the glow dimmed. Why would you wear that? He asked one night as she set the table in a simple blue dress. It's fine for, I don't know, a grocery run, but not dinner with my colleagues. Sarah's fork paused over the plates. I thought it looked nice. It looks cheap, he said flatly. Neutral colors work better. Don't embarrass me. The words stung, but she swallowed her reply. At first, she brushed off comments like that. Everyone had flaws. Maybe he was just particular. But then came the little rules. Don't laugh too loud. Don't say gonna. Don't spend time with Lily, her best friend from college, because she drags you down. One evening, after Sarah came home glowing from lunch with Lily, Ethan leaned against the doorway with a glass of scotch. You really need to stop wasting time with her. Sarah set her purse down. She's my best friend. She listens to me. She's a liability, he cut in. She makes you look small. Do you want people thinking you belong with her, or with me? The question wasn't really a question. Sarah fell silent. The first real crack came with lipstick on his shirt collar. She held it up with shaky fingers. Whose is this? He barely glanced at it. Relax. I hugged a client after a dinner. Europeans do that. You wouldn't understand. The second crack was harder to deny, a text that lit up his phone at midnight while he showered. Last night was perfect. Same time next week? Her stomach sank. She carried the phone into the bathroom. Who's this? Ethan took it calmly, like he'd rehearsed. Vanessa. She jokes. She's dramatic like that. Sarah's voice trembled. Your ex-girlfriend is texting you this. Don't be insecure, he said, stepping past her with a towel around his waist. You twist things. That's your problems. Sarah wanted to believe him because believing the alternative meant her life was built on lies. So she folded the doubt into herself, like clothes shoved into an overstuffed drawer, but the drawer wouldn't stay shut. One night she prepared his favorite pasta, set candles on the table, even put on the silver earrings he once said he liked. He walked in, glanced at the plates, and waved his hand. "Cancel this. Vanessa's hosting a party at the Preston. We need to go. Change into something appropriate." Sarah's throat went dry. "I made this for you. You can eat it tomorrow." At the gala, Sarah watched Vanessa in an emerald dress lean into Ethan, her fingers brushing his chest. Sarah forced a smile and introduced herself politely. "Of course," Vanessa said, eyes never leaving Ethan. Then she turned away, dismissing Sarah like furniture. On the ride home, Sarah whispered, "She's rude." "She's powerful," Ethan corrected. "Learn the difference." Her jaw tightened. "Powerful people don't need to be cruel," he sighed. "You really don't get this world. It's not about feelings. It's about winning. And right now, Vanessa helps me win." Sarah stared out the window at the glowing city, realizing with a sick twist in her stomach that her husband's world was not hers anymore. The final blow came with a hotel keycard. Sarah found it in Ethan's suit pocket while doing laundry. "What's this?" she asked, holding it up. "A client meeting," he said smoothly, not even glancing at it. "I followed you." Her voice shook, but her eyes didn't waver. "I saw you walk into that hotel with Vanessa." For the first time, Ethan didn't bother to lie. He smirked. "Fine. I slept with her." Sarah's chest caved. "How could you?" "Because she understands me." "You don't." Her voice cracked. "Then why marry me?" "You looked good on paper," he said coldly. "You were easy to control. I thought you'd stay in your lane." "My lane?" "Silence. Support. Not drama." She shook her head, stunned at the cruelty in his eyes. "Then we're done." Ethan laughed, a bitter sound. "You think you can leave me?" "I control the narrative. I have the lawyer, the assets, the reputation. You'll walk away with nothing." He was right. In court, his attorney painted her as unstable, jealous, unfit to handle money. Ethan dabbed his eyes for the cameras, playing the wounded husband. "I wanted it to work," he told the judge, but she refused to get help. Lies piled high, and Sarah was too tired to fight them all. The judge ruled a fair split. Ethan kept the condo, the car, and most of their savings. Sarah left with a small settlement and a box of kitchenware. When Ethan walked out of the courthouse, reporters crowded him. "Any comment?" one shouted. "I wish her the best," he said smoothly, smiling for the cameras. The next day, social media buzzed. She was never on his level. Too plain for him anyway. He's better off. Sarah moved into a one-room apartment with thin walls and no furniture except a mattress. She stared at herself in the mirror, eyes swollen, cheeks hollow. On a sticky note, she wrote, "Not everything that shines is real. Remember who you are." She pressed it to the mirror and whispered, "You broke me in public, Ethan. But watch me rebuild in private." For the first time, she stopped crying. Her humiliation burned into resolve. She would never let him break her again. If you haven't subscribed yet, we'd love for you to join our community by hitting the subscribe button. Through our stories, we build hope and give a future to children and women who have been abused all over the world. Motivate us by subscribing and turning on your notification bell so you never miss a story that matters. Also, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and how did this story speak to you? The apartment Sarah moved into after the divorce was smaller than the walk-in closet in Ethan's condo. The walls were bare, the mattress sat directly on the floor, and the single window looked out on a brick wall. On her first night there, she sat cross-legged on the floor with a paper takeout box, eating cold noodles by the light of her phone. "This is what I am now," she whispered to herself. "Starting from zero." She tried to lean on friends, but most didn't answer her calls. Some sent short messages. "I hope you're okay." Others quietly disappeared. At a cafe one morning, she spotted Jenna, one of the women she used to host dinners with. Sarah waved, relief washing over her. But Jenna hesitated, glanced at her expensive watch, and gave a tight smile. "Sarah, hi. I'm actually meeting Ethan and Vanessa here." Sarah's heart sank. "You still see them?" Jenna's smile tightened further. "Ethan helped my husband with a business deal. He's been really supportive. I hope you understand." Before Sarah could reply, Ethan walked in with Vanessa on his arm. He looked immaculate, Vanessa dazzling in a silk dress. Ethan's eyes flicked to Sarah, then he laughed, loud enough for the whole cafe to hear. Well, look who it is, the ex-wife. He looked her up and down, smirk curling. "Still trying to find yourself?" Heat crept into Sarah's cheeks. "I don't need your commentary, Ethan." Vanessa let out a tinkling laugh. "Pathetic," she said under her breath, just loud enough for Sarah to hear. Sarah stood, gathering her bag. "Enjoy your coffee," she said, forcing her voice steady. She left, her chest burning but her spine straight. That night, scrolling through her phone, Sarah saw the photos Ethan and Vanessa posted. Dinners, charity galas, tropical vacations. Each caption cut deeper. Winning at life. Some things never fade. Upgrade. She almost threw the phone across the room. Instead, she whispered to the empty apartment, "You can flaunt all you want. I'll rise quietly, and you won't see me coming." Her rise began slowly. She took odd jobs, waitressing, answering phones, even cleaning houses. At night, she studied free online courses, business basics, event planning, marketing. Her notes filled cheap notebooks stacked on the floor. One evening, after a 12-hour shift at a diner, she told herself in the mirror, "You're not just surviving. You're preparing." At first, no one believed in her. When she told old acquaintances she wanted to start an event planning service, they chuckled. "You?" one woman sneered. "Ethan used to complain you couldn't even organize your own kitchen." But Sarah kept going. She planned small parties for neighbors, charging almost nothing just to gain experience. She created simple flyers and taped them to coffee shop boards. Slowly, word spread. People began to notice her reliability, her eye for detail, her kindness. And still, Ethan mocked her whenever their paths crossed. At a mutual friend's birthday dinner, he smirked when someone mentioned Sarah's business. "She's playing dress-up," he said. "It's cute." "She'll get bored soon." Sarah lifted her glass, met his eyes, and said calmly, "Don't worry, Ethan. I'm just getting started." The table went quiet. Ethan's smirk faltered. For the first time, Sarah felt something like power stirring inside her. As her reputation grew, Sarah landed her first big client, a small company gala. She worked tirelessly, designing the decor, coordinating food, making sure every detail was flawless. At the end of the night, the company's CEO shook her hand. "You've got talent," he said. "I'll be recommending you." Walking home that night, Sarah looked up at the city lights and smiled. For the first time in years, she felt alive. It was at another event, an engagement party she organized, that she met David. He wasn't flashy or arrogant. He was a teacher, tall and kind-eyed, who noticed how hard she worked that evening. When most guests ignored her, he approached as she was adjusting the flowers. "You've done a beautiful job here," he said warmly. Sarah blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, thank you. Most people don't notice the details. I do," David said simply. "The details are where the heart shows." They talked briefly, and when he left, he said, "I hope I see you again." They did, slowly, carefully. Coffee dates turned into long walks into quiet dinners. David never rushed her. He asked about her dreams, listened to her fears, and never once made her feel small. One evening, Sarah confessed, "I was married before." "He broke me." David reached across the table, took her hand, and said softly, "Then he was a fool. Because all I see is strength." Tears stung her eyes, but they weren't the kind that burned. They were the kind that healed. Years passed, and Sarah's business blossomed. She hired assistants, rented an office, and built a name people respected. The same people who once doubted her now sought her services. She smiled politely, never mentioning how they had dismissed her. David was by her side through it all, steady, encouraging, never overshadowing her. When he proposed, it wasn't in front of cameras or crowds. It was on a quiet evening walk by the river. He slipped a ring onto her hand and said, "You deserve joy." "Let me share it with you." Sarah said yes with tears streaming down her face. For once, her life felt like it was truly hers. But not everyone celebrated her happiness. When Ethan heard of her engagement, his pride cracked. He mocked her business more loudly, laughed at her success in front of mutual friends. At a cocktail party where Sarah was in attendance, he raised his glass and sneered, "Sarah thinks she's an entrepreneur now. Cute, right? Too bad she's still a wannabe. No matter how much she pretends, she'll always be the woman who lost me." Sarah met his eyes, her smile calm but sharp. "And you'll always be the man who underestimated me." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan's face darkened. For the first time it was clear. Sarah wasn't afraid of him anymore. But Ethan wasn't finished. His bitterness grew, festering. And when Sarah's wedding to David approached, Ethan made sure he'd be there. Not to celebrate, but to destroy. Sarah had no idea that the most humiliating moment of her life was waiting at her own reception. And Ethan had no idea that she already had his worst nightmare planned. The church bells rang softly as Sarah and David exchanged vows, their voices trembling with joy. The small chapel glowed with white flowers and warm candlelight. Guests dabbed their eyes, smiling at the simple beauty of the moment. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," David leaned in, kissed her gently, and whispered, "You're my miracle." Sarah's heart soared. For the first time in years, she wasn't pretending. She wasn't playing a role in someone else's performance. She was living her truth, and everyone in the room could see it. The reception was held in a charming garden hall, strung with twinkling lights. Long tables held homemade desserts, simple but elegant centerpieces, and laughter filled the air. Friends clinked glasses and toasted, "To Sarah and David, to love, real love." Sarah laughed more that night than she had in years. She moved from table to table, hugging guests, her white dress brushing against the floor. Every smile, every word of congratulations felt like balm on old wounds, but not everyone celebrated her joy. At the back of the hall, Ethan stood in the shadows. His tie was loose, his steps unsteady from too much whiskey. Vanessa hadn't come with him. She had grown tired of his bitterness months ago. Tonight, Ethan was alone, his pride raw and festering. He watched Sarah's laughter like it was an insult. Every toast was a knife in his chest. The woman he thought he'd destroyed was glowing brighter than ever. And worse, she looked untouchable. "Pathetic," he muttered to himself. "She thinks she won." When David raised his glass and kissed Sarah's hand, Ethan snapped. He shoved his way through the crowd, sending murmurs rippling as heads turned. Sarah froze when she saw him. For a second, her old instincts kicked in, panic, dread. But then David's hand squeezed hers, steady and sure. She breathed once, deeply, and faced Ethan. "Ethan," she said quietly, "you shouldn't be here." He staggered closer, his voice loud, slurred with drink. "Shouldn't be here? This is my stage, my story. You think you can ever be happy without me?" Gasps rippled through the guests. A little boy at the dessert table tugged on his mother's sleeve. "Who's that man?" Ethan jabbed a finger at Sarah, his face twisted with rage. "Pathetic. That's what you are. You'll always be pathetic. You're a joke, and I'll prove it right now." "Ethan, stop," David said firmly, stepping forward. But Ethan laughed, a cruel sound that silenced the room. He turned, marched toward the towering wedding cake at the center of the hall, and with one vicious sweep of his arm, sent it crashing to the floor. The cake split apart in a heap of frosting and sponge, white layers smeared across the tiles. The sound of gasps and cries filled the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" Ethan threw his arms wide, grinning like a victor. There. Ruined. Just like her. Just like always. She's nothing. And now everyone sees it. The room buzzed with horrified whispers. Her ex-husband. I can't believe he did that. He ruined her wedding. Ethan strutted in front of the smashed cake, basking in the chaos he created. He expected tears, screams, Sarah collapsing in shame. That was the script he imagined. The script he had forced on her for years. But when he turned back to her, ready to savor her humiliation, Sarah wasn't broken. She was smiling. Not the smile of a woman in shock, not a forced smile to cover pain. It was calm, controlled, almost cold. The kind of smile that made Ethan's victory feel suddenly, terrifyingly hollow. The crowd held its breath, waiting for Sarah to crumble. Instead, she stepped forward, the lights glinting off her dress. She looked at the wrecked cake, then at Ethan, her face serene. Is that it? She asked softly. Ethan blinked. What? That's your grand gesture, smashing sugar and flour. Her voice was steady, but every word cut. You think you ruined me with a cake? A murmur of surprise rippled through the guests. Ethan's smirk faltered. You don't get to talk to me like that. David placed a hand on Sarah's shoulder, but she shook her head gently. No. He needs to hear this. She took a step closer to Ethan, her eyes locked on his. For years, you made me feel small. You told me I was plain. You told me I was worthless without you. And for a while I believed it. Ethan sneered. Because it's true. Sarah's smile didn't waver. No, Ethan. It's your truth. The one you created to keep me under your thumb. But look around you. She gestured to the guests, the friends and family who loved her, the man who stood proudly at her side. Do you see me collapsing? Do you see me begging you? Because I'm not the woman you tried to break anymore. The crowd erupted in whispers. Some guests nodded, their eyes shining with admiration. Ethan's face reddened. You think this changes anything? You'll never be on my level. You're still a wannabe. Sarah tilted her head. Then why are you here, Ethan? If I'm nothing, why crash my wedding? Why cling to me like a shadow you can't shake? His mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time, he looked unsteady. She smiled again, sharper now. The truth is, you didn't ruin me tonight. You revealed yourself. To everyone, all eyes turned to Ethan, disheveled, drunk, standing in front of the wreckage he created. The powerful image he clung to for years crumbled in seconds. Guests began murmuring louder now, not about Sarah, but about him. Disgraceful. I can't believe he did this. So bitter. David finally stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. It's time for you to leave, Ethan. Ethan's eyes darted around, searching for someone, anyone to back him. But the crowd had already judged. He wasn't the man in control anymore. He was the bitter ex, drunk and pathetic, exposed in his own cruelty. Two ushers moved forward and guided him toward the door. His protests grew weaker. She's nothing! She's... The door shut on his words. Silence settled. All eyes turned back to Sarah. She looked down at the smashed cake, then back at her guests. I suppose dessert will be unconventional tonight, she said with a soft laugh. The room erupted in applause and cheers. The tension broke like a dam, replaced with admiration. Sarah raised her glass. To new beginnings. To love. To joy no one can take away. Her calm in the face of humiliation became the story of the night. Not Ethan's tantrum. Not the ruined cake. The whispers changed. She handled that with such grace. Ethan looked like a fool. Sarah's stronger than ever. And in the corner of the room, as the band began to play again, Sarah stood taller, her hand in David's. Because sometimes silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the calm before the storm. And Ethan had no idea that his real nightmare was still to come. The music had just started again when Sarah lifted her hand. One moment, please. Her voice was calm, but it cut through the chatter like a blade. The band silenced. The crowd turned. Sarah stepped to the center of the room, her posture tall, her eyes steady. Tonight was supposed to be about love, about joy, but sometimes life gives us interruptions. She glanced at the smashed cake on the floor, then back at the guests, and sometimes interruptions reveal the truth. Ethan's laughter still echoed faintly from outside the hall. People shifted uncomfortably, wondering what Sarah would do next. David leaned in. You don't have to say anything, he whispered. Oh yes, Sarah replied softly. I do. She gestured toward the far wall. Suddenly, the large projector screen flickered to life. Gasps filled the room. On the screen, crystal clear footage appeared. Ethan storming into the hall, his drunken rant, his venomous words, his triumphant destruction of the cake. Every cruel word was caught from 3 different angles. Guests leaned forward, shocked. One woman covered her mouth. A man muttered. He set himself up. Sarah's voice was calm. I run an event company. I always arrange discreet security cameras, for safety. Tonight, they served a different purpose. Murmurs swelled, admiration sparking in the crowd. Sarah continued, her eyes glinting. But that's not all. Daniel Hayes, her attorney and trusted friend, stepped forward, carrying a slim black folder. Sarah opened it, sliding crisp documents onto a nearby table where cameras from the press had been rolling all evening. These, Sarah said, tapping the papers, are records of Ethan's financial dealings. Fraud, embezzlement, illegal transfers. While he played the role of the wealthy hero, he was stealing from the very people who trusted him. Gasps. A reporter scribbled furiously. Someone pulled out a phone, already snapping photos of the evidence. And then, another voice rose from the crowd. Don't forget me, Vanessa said. She stepped forward, heels clicking like gunshots. She looked flawless as always, but her eyes burned with fury. She held up a slim envelope. This man, your precious Ethan, was cheating on me too. While I defended him, while I believed him, he was seeing another woman behind my back. I have proof. She scattered printed photos onto the floor, receipts fluttering like damning confetti. The guests gasped louder. All eyes turned to the door where Ethan had exited minutes earlier. He wasn't just bitter, he was exposed. Vanessa spat, her voice sharp enough to slice. You thought you'd ruin her, Ethan. You ruined yourself. Applause broke out, scattered at first, then louder. Reporters surged, cameras flashing, phones buzzed, as clips and images spread across social media in real time. By the time Ethan staggered back in, confusion in his eyes, the room was no longer his. It belonged to Sarah. Ethan froze in the doorway. His smirk faltered as he saw the footage looping on the projector, the financial papers in reporters' hands, Vanessa glaring at him like he was poison. What? What is this? He stammered. Sarah turned slowly, her gown glowing in the light. The truth, she said. You set me up, he roared. No, she replied calmly. You set yourself up. I only made sure everyone could see it. His old allies, business partners, friends who once fawned over him, backed away. One man shook his head. I trusted you, Ethan. Not anymore. Another muttered, We're finished. Even his own cousin, who had stood by him during the divorce, whispered, Disgraceful, before walking out. The final betrayal was the loudest. Vanessa stepped close, her voice ringing. You humiliated me. You lied to me. And now you'll drown alone. She spat at his feet. The crowd gasped, then cheered. Ethan's face turned red, then pale. His voice cracked. You can't do this to me. I built everything. Sarah took the microphone from the DJ's stand. The hall fell silent. When I begged for dignity, she said, her voice strong, you gave me humiliation. When I asked for love, you gave me betrayal. Tonight, I return the favor. She paused, eyes sweeping the crowd. But unlike you, I rise stronger. The room erupted in applause. People stood, clapping, cheering, chanting her name. Reporters swarmed Ethan. What about the fraud, Ethan? Are the allegations true? How long have you been stealing? He stumbled backward, eyes wild, but before he could escape, uniformed officers entered the hall. One stepped forward, handcuffs glinting. Ethan Blake, the officer declared, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and financial misconduct. You have the right to remain silent. Gasps turned into flashes as cameras clicked furiously. Ethan shouted, This isn't real. She planted it all, but no one believed him anymore. His mask was gone. The officers dragged him out. Vanessa turned away. His allies scattered. His reputation collapsed in front of him, brick by brick, until nothing remained. Sarah stood tall, the microphone still in her hand. Her voice cut through the noise one final time. He smashed my cake, thinking he'd ruined me. But all he smashed was the mask he wore. His nightmare wasn't my wedding, it was watching me win. The hall thundered with applause. In the weeks that followed, headlines blared, Ex-husband exposed at wedding. Fraudster arrested after bride outs him mid-reception. Sarah Blake, the woman who turned humiliation into triumph. Ethan sat in jail awaiting trial. His fortune evaporated, his name dragged through every newspaper.
The champagne glass slipped from my fingers. Not because I dropped it, but because my sister-in-law Candace just called me a fat pig in front of 200 wedding guests. Come on, Simone, don't be so sensitive, Candace said, her white dress shimmering under the reception lights. I'm just saying maybe you should skip the cake. You know, since you're already big enough. She laughed, that high-pitched sound that made my stomach turn. I mean, look at you. How does Derek even? Candace, that's enough, her new husband Timothy said quietly, but he was smiling. Everyone was smiling. This was entertainment to them. I stood there, my burgundy dress suddenly feeling too tight, my face burning hot. I looked around the elegantly decorated ballroom. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. White roses covered every surface. Everything was perfect for the perfect daughter of the perfect family. And then there was me. The family disappointment. The one who didn't fit. Oh honey, she's just joking, my mother-in-law Patricia said, touching my arm with her cold fingers. You know Candace. She's always been honest. Maybe a little too honest. More laughter rippled through the nearby tables. I looked at my husband Derek. He was standing 3 feet away, drink in hand, staring at his phone. He heard everything. He always heard everything. But he never said anything. Not in 15 years of marriage. Derek. I said softly. He looked up, annoyed that I was interrupting whatever he was looking at. What? Simone, don't make a scene. It's Candace's special day. Something inside me cracked. Not broke. Cracked. Like ice on a lake right before it shatters completely. You're right, I said quietly. It is her special day. Candace beamed. See? Simone gets it. Now come on, let's get a family photo. Actually, Simone, maybe you should sit this one out. We want to look good for the photographer. The guests laughed louder now. Some were recording on their phones. I could see the smirks, the whispers behind hands, the way people looked at me like I was some kind of joke they all shared. I had become the story they would tell at dinner parties. Remember when Candace called Simone a pig at her wedding? It was hilarious. Poor Derek stuck with that one. My father-in-law Harold walked over, adjusting his expensive tuxedo. Ladies, let's keep it classy. This wedding cost me a fortune. He winked at the crowd. Almost as much as keeping my company running. More laughter. I wanted to laugh too, because if they only knew, they had any idea. But I didn't laugh. Instead I smiled. A real smile. The first genuine smile I'd had in years. Excuse me, I said. I need some air. I walked away from the table, away from the laughter, away from the family that had never been mine. My heels clicked on the marble floor. I could feel their eyes on my back. I could hear the whispers starting already. Where is she going? She's so dramatic. Poor Derek. I pushed through the ballroom doors and stepped into the hotel corridor. The noise from the reception faded behind me. I pulled out my phone from my small purse and made a call. Miss Cole, my assistant answered on the first ring. Is everything all right? Rachel, I said, my voice steady despite the storm building inside me. Remember those documents I asked you to prepare? The ones for Harold's company? Yes, ma'am. They're ready to be filed whenever you give the word. And the divorce papers? Your lawyer has them ready. Just needs your signature. Perfect. I took a deep breath. Tomorrow morning, I want you to do exactly what we discussed. All of it. Are you sure? Rachel asked. She'd worked for me for 8 years. She knew what this meant. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. I ended the call and looked at myself in the reflection of a nearby window. I saw a woman who had been invisible for too long. A woman who had let people walk all over her because she wanted to believe in love, in family, in the goodness of people. But standing there in that quiet hallway, with the sounds of my own humiliation echoing in my head, I realized something important. I wasn't invisible. I had just been waiting, watching, learning exactly who these people really were. And now I knew. I straightened my shoulders and walked back toward the ballroom. Not because I was going back to sit quietly and take more insults, but because I wanted to see their faces one more time before everything changed. When I pushed open the doors, the party was in full swing. Candace was dancing with Timothy, her dress twirling around her. Derek was at the bar, laughing with his cousins. Patricia was holding court at the head table, probably telling everyone how difficult I was. And Harold was shaking hands with someone I recognized. Mr. Thompson. The CEO who had facilitated one of the biggest business deals in this city 3 years ago. The deal that saved Harold's company from complete bankruptcy. They hadn't seen me yet. No one ever really saw me. But they would. Very soon they would see everything. I sat down at my table, alone. I picked up a fresh glass of champagne from a passing waiter. I took a sip and watched the party continue around me. I watched these people who thought they knew everything, who thought they were better than me, who thought I was nothing. I smiled again. This time the smile reached my eyes. Tomorrow their world would change. But tonight I would let them have their party. I would let them have their jokes and their laughter and their casual cruelty. Because when the truth came out, when they finally understood who I really was, the silence would be so much sweeter than any insult they could ever throw at me. The DJ announced it was time for the cake cutting. Candace squealed with delight. Everyone gathered around with their phones ready, cameras up, capturing every perfect moment of the perfect daughter's perfect day. No one noticed me sitting in the corner. No one ever did. And that had been my biggest advantage all along. I met Derek on a Tuesday afternoon in April 15 years ago. I was 25, fresh off selling my first startup for $2 million, and trying to figure out what to do next with my life. He was beautiful. Tall, with warm brown eyes and a smile that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. We met at a coffee shop downtown. He spilled his drink on my laptop bag and apologized so profusely that I couldn't help but laugh. "Let me buy you another coffee," he said. "And maybe dinner to make up for almost ruining your laptop?" I should have said no. I should have seen the signs. But I was young and lonely and tired of being the smart girl who everyone admired but no one really wanted to know. Derek was different. Or so I thought. He worked in sales at his father's company. Nothing special, he admitted. But he had dreams. He wanted to do more, be more. He talked about traveling, starting his own business, making a difference. I told him I worked in tech. I didn't mention the startup I'd sold. I didn't mention the money sitting in my bank account. I wanted him to like me for me, not for what I had. We dated for 2 years before he proposed. By then I'd started my second company, Cole Enterprises, an investment firm that specialized in turning struggling businesses around. I used my maiden name for business, Cole. It kept things separate from my personal life. I told Derek about my business a month before the wedding. We were sitting in my apartment, planning our honeymoon. I need to tell you something, I said. I'm not just a tech consultant. I own a company. It's doing really well. He smiled and kissed my forehead. That's great, baby. I'm proud of you. But he didn't ask questions. Didn't want to see the office. Didn't ask about revenue or clients or anything real. He just nodded and went back to looking at pictures of beaches. I should have known then. But I was in love. Or I thought I was. The wedding was small. My parents had passed away years earlier and I didn't have much family. Derek's family took over everything. Patricia planned it all. Harold paid for it. Candace was my maid of honor because Derek insisted, even though she barely spoke to me during the engagement. At the reception, Candace got drunk and made a speech about how lucky I was to marry into their family. How Derek could have had anyone but he chose me. How I should be grateful. Everyone laughed. Derek laughed. I sat there in my white dress and realized I'd made a mistake. But I was married now. And I wanted to believe it would get better. We moved into a house that I bought with cash. Derek thought we got a good deal through his father's connections. He didn't know I owned it outright. He didn't know because he never asked to see the paperwork. Year 1 of marriage, Derek worked at his father's company. He came home stressed, complaining about his job, about his father's expectations. I listened. I supported him. I suggested he try something new. Like what? He snapped. Not all of us can just work in tech and make easy money. I bit my tongue. Year 2, Harold's company started struggling. Derek was worried they'd have to lay people off. He might lose his job. Patricia called me crying, asking if I knew anyone who could help. Anyone with money who might invest. I wanted to tell them. I wanted to say I could help. But something held me back. Some instinct that told me to wait. To watch. So I helped anonymously. I had my lawyer set up meetings with Harold. My company invested $8 million to restructure his business, bring in new management and turn things around. It worked. The company thrived. Harold never knew it was me. To him, some mysterious investor group had saved his company. He told everyone at family dinners how smart he was, how he'd convinced these investors to believe in his vision. Derek bragged about his father. About how the Hartwell family always landed on their feet. About good genes and business sense. I sat at those dinners and said nothing. Year 3, Candace got engaged to Timothy, a lawyer from a good family. The wedding planning started immediately. Patricia was obsessed with making it perfect. The best wedding the city had ever seen. Candace asked me to be a bridesmaid. Not because she liked me, but because it would look bad if Derek's wife wasn't in the wedding party. I said yes, because I was still trying. Still believing that maybe, eventually, they would see me as family. Year 5, I tried to tell Derek again about my business. We were lying in bed and I pulled up my company website on my phone. Look at this, I said. This is my company. Cole Enterprises. We just closed a deal worth $12 million. He glanced at the screen and laughed. Simone, come on. You're good at your job, but you don't run a $12 million company. Those are the big players. Maybe someday, but let's be realistic. He rolled over and went to sleep. I lay there in the dark holding my phone, staring at the website that had my face on the About page. My name. My accomplishments. And he didn't believe me. That's when I realized the truth. Derek didn't want to know who I really was. None of them did. They had decided who I was the moment Derek brought me home. The nice, quiet woman who married up. The one who should be grateful. The one who didn't matter. So I let them believe it. I stopped trying to show them. I stopped trying to prove anything. I just watched. I watched Patricia dismiss my opinions at family gatherings. I watched Harold talk over me during conversations. I watched Candace treat me like the help at her engagement parties and bridal showers. And I watched Derek, my husband, the man who promised to love and cherish me. I watched him stand by and let it happen. Every snide comment, every dismissive look, every time they made me feel small. He did nothing. Years 6 through 14 were more of the same. I built my business bigger. I made smart investments. I bought properties. I helped other companies grow. I became someone important in business circles, all while using my maiden name. At home, I was just Simone Hartwell, Derek's wife, the boring one, the one who didn't quite fit. I went to the family dinners. I smiled at the holidays. I bought expensive gifts that they barely acknowledged. I organized Derek's life, managed our home, and disappeared into the background of their perfect family portrait. But I was always watching, always learning, always documenting. I saw how Candace spent money she didn't have, running up credit cards and begging Harold to bail her out. I saw how Derek complained about his salary but spent hundreds on golf clubs and bar tabs with his friends. I saw how Harold's company only survived because of my investment, but he took all the credit. I saw how Patricia judged every woman who didn't meet her standards, including me. I saw everything. And I remembered everything. Year 15. Candace's wedding. The moment I'd been waiting for without even knowing it. The moment when I finally had enough. Sitting in that ballroom, watching the party continue around me, I thought about all those years. All those moments when I could have spoken up. When I could have told them the truth. But I didn't regret waiting. Because now I knew exactly who they were. And more importantly, I knew exactly who I was. I wasn't the woman who needed their approval anymore. I wasn't the woman trying to fit into their family. I was Simone Cole, CEO, investor. The woman who saved their precious company and asked for nothing in return. And tomorrow they would finally know it too. The cake was a 5-tier masterpiece covered in white fondant and real flowers. It probably cost more than most people's cars. Harold made sure everyone knew it. Only the best for my princess, he announced, his arm around Candace's shoulders. Nothing is too good for my little girl. Candace beamed up at him. She'd always been his favorite. His golden daughter who could do no wrong. When she dropped out of college after one semester, he said she was too creative for traditional education. When she quit 3 different jobs in 2 years, he said she was finding herself. When she maxed out 6 credit cards, he paid them off and said she was learning financial responsibility. Patricia stood next to them, dabbing her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. My baby is all grown up, she said to anyone who would listen. But she'll always be my perfect angel. I sipped my champagne and watched the show. The photographer snapped pictures. The videographer captured every angle. This was the wedding that would be talked about for years. The Hartwell family event of the decade. Timothy's family stood off to the side, looking slightly uncomfortable. They were wealthy too, but quiet about it. His mother had tried to talk to me earlier, asking polite questions about my work. I kept my answers vague. Old habit. Speech. Someone shouted. Harold raised his glass. The room went quiet. He loved being the center of attention almost as much as Candace did. Today is a beautiful day, he began. Seeing my daughter marry such a fine young man reminds me how blessed we are. The Hartwell family has always been about success, about excellence, about never settling for less than the best. People nodded and murmured agreement. 10 years ago, I started my company with nothing but a dream and determination, Harold continued. It was actually 30 years ago and he inherited seed money from his own father, but why let facts ruin a good story? I built it from the ground up. There were tough times. There were moments when others would have quit. Here it comes, I thought. 3 years ago we faced our biggest challenge. The market was tough. Competition was fierce. Some people said we should sell, should give up. He paused for dramatic effect. But I didn't give up. I fought. I found investors who believed in my vision. I turned this company around through sheer determination and business savvy. The room erupted in applause. Derek was clapping the loudest, proud of his father. Proud of a lie. I took another sip of champagne. The bubbles tickled my throat. That's the Hartwell way, Harold said. We don't quit. We don't back down. We succeed. And I know Candace and Timothy will have that same success in their marriage. More applause. Candace hugged her father, tears running down her face. Patricia joined them, and suddenly it was a family moment. The photographer went crazy, capturing the perfect family being perfect. Derek walked over to join them. Someone called out, "Where's your wife, Derek?" He looked around, spotted me sitting alone, and shrugged. She wanted to sit this one out, he said. Not mean, just casual. Like I was a coat he'd left on a chair. No one thought it was strange. Of course I wasn't in the family photo. I wasn't really family. The cake cutting happened with all the ceremony you'd expect. Candace and Timothy fed each other tiny bites while everyone took pictures. Then the servers started bringing out slices to the tables. A piece landed in front of me. Chocolate with raspberry filling. It looked delicious. Candace walked by my table with Timothy. She saw the cake in front of me and laughed. I thought you were skipping dessert? Remember what we talked about? Several people at nearby tables turned to look, waiting for the joke to continue. I picked up my fork and took a bite. The cake was actually very good. It's delicious, I said. You chose well. She blinked, confused that I wasn't reacting the way she wanted. Well, don't eat too much. That dress is already tight enough. Timothy pulled her away, whispering something in her ear. She giggled and let him lead her to the dance floor. I finished my cake slowly. Each bite was deliberate. I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't shrinking to make them comfortable. The DJ played the father-daughter dance. Harold and Candace glided across the floor while everyone watched. It was like a scene from a movie. The successful father. The beautiful daughter. The fairy tale family. Patricia cried into her handkerchief again. Derek stood with his cousins, probably telling them stories about growing up with Candace. How she was always special. Always destined for greatness. After the dance, people started mingling again. The bar was busy. The music got louder. This was the part of the wedding where people relaxed, where the real conversations happened. I saw Harold talking to a group of men near the bar. Business associates probably. He was in his element, gesturing wildly, telling stories, making everyone laugh. Then I saw someone else join the group. Mr. Thompson. He was the CEO of Thompson Holdings, one of the biggest firms in the city. He was also the man who had facilitated my investment in Harold's company 3 years ago. He knew me as Miss Cole. He knew my company. He knew exactly how much money I'd put into saving Harold's business. And he was walking straight toward me. My heart started beating faster. Not from fear. From anticipation. Miss Cole? Mr. Thompson said, his hand extended. I thought that was you. What a pleasant surprise to see you here. The music seemed to get quieter. Or maybe it was just my imagination. A few people nearby turned to look. Who was this man calling me Miss Cole? I stood up and shook his hand. Mr. Thompson. It's good to see you. I didn't realize you knew the Hartwell family personally, he said. What a small world. I'm married to Derek, I said simply. Harold's son. Mr. Thompson's eyes went wide. Then he started laughing. You're Derek's wife? You're Mrs. Hartwell? Legally, yes. Professionally, I still use Cole. He shook his head in amazement. This is incredible. Does Harold know? Does anyone here know? Know what? Patricia appeared at my elbow, her eyes sharp. She didn't like not knowing what was happening. Mr. Thompson smiled at her. Mrs. Hartwell, I was just telling your daughter-in-law what a remarkable woman she is. Patricia's smile was forced. Oh, that's sweet. Simone is very nice. Nice. Mr. Thompson looked genuinely confused. I'd say brilliant. Visionary. One of the sharpest business minds I've worked with in 20 years. You could have heard a pin drop. Several more people had stopped their conversations to listen. Patricia laughed uncomfortably. I think you might have her confused with someone else. Simone works in tech consulting. She's not really a business person. This was it. The moment everything would change. I could stop Mr. Thompson right now. I could make an excuse, pull him aside, keep my secret a little longer. But I was so tired of secrets. So tired of being invisible. Actually, I said, my voice clear and steady, Mr. Thompson and I worked together on a major investment deal. About 3 years ago. Harold had joined us now, drawn by the crowd forming. Thompson. Good to see you here. Celebrating my daughter's big day. Mr. Thompson shook Harold's hand. Congratulations. Beautiful wedding. I was just talking with Miss Cole here about our work together. Miss Cole? Harold looked at me. What's he talking about? I met Harold's eyes. The man who had never respected me. Who had never seen me as anything more than his son's mediocre wife. He's talking about the $8 million I invested in your company 3 years ago, I said. The investment that saved you from bankruptcy. The silence was absolute. For a moment, nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The music from the DJ seemed to fade into the background. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, steady and strong. Harold's face went through several expressions. Confusion. Disbelief. Then something that looked like panic. What are you talking about? He said, but his voice wavered. Mr. Thompson looked between us, realization dawning on his face. Wait, you didn't know? Harold, Miss Cole is the principal investor who saved your company. Cole Enterprises. Surely you know your own daughter-in-law owns. That's impossible, Patricia interrupted. Her voice was sharp. Simone doesn't have that kind of money. She's just a tech consultant. I reached into my small purse and pulled out my business card. The one I always carried but never gave to Derek's family. I handed it to Harold. He stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. Simone Cole. CEO Cole Enterprises. His hands were shaking slightly. Derek pushed through the small crowd that had gathered. What's going on? Simone, what is all this? I turned to my husband. The man I'd loved for 15 years. The man who never believed in me. It's exactly what it sounds like. I own an investment firm. I'm the investor who saved your father's company. I've been running a multi-million-dollar business for the past 12 years. That's ridiculous, Derek said. But he didn't sound convinced. He sounded scared. Is it? I pulled out my phone and opened my email. I turned the screen toward him. Here's the contract from 3 years ago. $8 million invested in Hartwell Industries. My signature. My company. Derek took the phone with shaking hands. He scrolled through the document. His face went pale. Why didn't you tell us? Patricia demanded. Why would you hide something like this? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. I tried to tell you. Multiple times. Derek, do you remember 5 years ago when I showed you my company website? Derek's eyes met mine. I saw the memory hit him. You said, but I thought you were joking. It seems so impossible? I finished. Too big for someone like me? He didn't answer. Candace appeared, annoyed that attention had shifted away from her on her wedding day. What is everyone talking about? Simone, what did you do now? Your sister-in-law is apparently a secret millionaire, someone whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Candace's eyes went wide. What? Mr. Thompson, bless him, seemed to understand what was happening. Perhaps we should discuss this somewhere more private, he suggested. No, I said firmly. I'm tired of private. I'm tired of quiet. I'm tired of being invisible while everyone in this family treats me like I'm nothing. Simone, you're making a scene, Derek hissed. It's Candace's wedding. Yes, it is. The wedding where your sister called me a fat pig in front of 200 people. The wedding where your mother suggested I skip dessert. The wedding where your father bragged about saving his company through his own brilliance, when it was my money that saved him. My voice was rising, but I didn't care anymore. I'm done being the punchline of your family jokes. Harold's business associates were watching with open curiosity. One of them, a man named Mr. Peterson, spoke up. Miss Cole, I've heard of your company. You specialize in troubled businesses, right? Turning them around? That's correct. And you invested in Hartwell Industries anonymously? Through my lawyers, yes. I wanted to help because it was my husband's family company. I thought if I did it anonymously, if I asked for nothing in return, maybe eventually they would respect me for who I was. Not for what I had. Instead, they treated you like garbage, Mr. Peterson said bluntly. He looked at Harold with disapproval. You're a fool, Hartwell. This woman saved your business and you didn't even know it. Harold's face was red. How was I supposed to know? She never said anything. I tried, I said. But you never listened. None of you did. Patricia was shaking her head. This doesn't make sense. If you have all this money, why do you live in that little house? Why do you dress so plain? Why don't you have a fancy car? I own that house outright. I bought it with cash 15 years ago. Derek thinks we have a mortgage. I looked at my husband. I also own the beach house you think your father gave us as a wedding present. I own the car you drive. The furniture. Everything. I paid for it all. Derek looked like he might be sick. Why? Candace demanded. Why would you hide all this? Why would you pretend to be poor? I wasn't pretending to be poor. I was being myself. I didn't think I needed to wave money around to be respected. I thought being kind, being supportive, being family would be enough. I looked at each of them in turn. I was wrong. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Miss Cole, I apologize. If I'd known you wanted to remain anonymous, I wouldn't have said anything. Don't apologize, I said. You did me a favor. I should have done this years ago. The DJ had stopped the music completely now. The entire reception was watching us. Candace looked furious that her wedding had been hijacked. Timothy looked uncomfortable. The guests were eating this up, phones out, recording everything. This would be the story people told about this wedding. Not the beautiful dress or the expensive cake. Simone, let's go home and talk about this privately, Derek said, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. I'm not going home with you. What does that mean? It means I'm done. I filed for divorce this morning. You'll be served the papers on Monday. The gasps from the crowd were audible. Patricia's mouth fell open. Harold looked like he might faint. Derek's face went from pale to red. You can't do that. You can't just leave. We've been married for 15 years. 15 years of you letting your family treat me terribly. 15 years of you not believing in me. 15 years of me being invisible. I felt surprisingly calm. I'm not invisible anymore. But I love you, Derek said. It was the first time he'd said those words in years. No, you don't. You love the idea of me. The quiet wife who doesn't cause problems. The one who makes you look good and asks for nothing. I picked up my purse. I'm also withdrawing my investment from your father's company. My lawyers will handle the details, but essentially, Harold, you have 6 months to find alternative funding. Otherwise, you'll need to sell or close. Harold found his voice. You can't do that. That's our livelihood. Derek works there. You'd put your own husband out of a job? Derek is about to be my ex-husband. And you should have thought about that before letting your daughter insult me at her wedding. I looked at Candace. Before you all made it very clear that I would never be good enough for this family, no matter what I did. Candace's face was red. You're ruining my wedding. No, I said. I'm just being honest for the first time in 15 years. If that ruins your wedding, maybe you should think about why. I started walking toward the exit. The crowd parted for me. I heard whispers, saw phones pointed in my direction, but I didn't stop. Derek called after me. Simone, wait. We can fix this. I'll talk to my family. Things will be different. I turned back one last time. No, Derek. They won't. Because the problem isn't your family. You never stood up for me. Not once in 15 years. You let them treat me like I was nothing, and you did nothing. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. There's a difference. I walked out of the ballroom, my heels clicking on the marble floor. Behind me I heard chaos erupting. Voices raised. Candace crying. Harold demanding to know if what I said was true. The hotel lobby was quiet. Normal people doing normal things, unaware of the drama happening in the ballroom. I pulled out my phone and called Rachel. Miss Cole? How did it go? It's done. I told them everything. Oh my God. How do you feel? I stepped outside into the cool evening air. The sky was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. I feel free. I didn't go home that night. I went to my condo downtown, the one I'd bought 3 years ago and never told Derek about. It was small but beautiful, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. This was my space. My sanctuary. Rachel had spare clothes for me there already. She'd been preparing for this day even before I knew I was ready for it. I changed out of the burgundy dress and into comfortable clothes. I washed off my makeup and let my hair down. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked tired. But she also looked relieved. My phone was going crazy with calls and texts. Derek had called 20 times. Patricia 7 times. Even Candace had sent a message. How could you do this to me on my wedding day? I turned off my phone and poured myself a glass of wine. I sat by the window and watched the city lights. It was almost midnight. Somewhere across town, the reception was probably still going. Or maybe it had ended early, everyone too shocked to keep celebrating. I didn't care either way. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence. No alarm. No Derek snoring beside me. No Patricia calling to complain about something. Just quiet. I made coffee and checked my phone. 57 missed calls. 32 text messages. For voicemails. I listened to one voicemail from Derek. His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. Simone, please call me back. We need to talk. I know I messed up. I know I should have defended you. But we can fix this. Please don't give up on us. Too late, I thought. Years too late. There was a message from Harold that was less apologetic and more angry. You can't just pull your investment out. We have a contract. My lawyers will be in touch. Good luck with that, I thought. My lawyers were better. Patricia's message was cold. I don't know what game you're playing, but this is unacceptable. You've embarrassed this family. Derek deserves better than this treatment. The irony was almost funny. Monday morning, I went into my office. Cole Enterprises occupied the 15th floor of a downtown high-rise. Modern, sleek, professional. This was my world. The place where I was respected. Where I was seen. Rachel met me at the elevator with coffee and a sympathetic smile. Good morning, boss. You okay? I'm good. Better than I've been in years. We walked through the office. My employees greeted me warmly. They knew me here. They saw me. Not as Derek's wife or the Hartwell family disappointment. Just as me. In my office, Rachel handed me a folder. The divorce papers are ready for your signature. Derek will be served this afternoon. I also have the documents ready to withdraw your investment from Hartwell Industries. I signed both sets of papers without hesitation. Make sure Harold gets advance notice before filing. Professional courtesy. You're better than he deserves, Rachel said. I know. But I want everything done properly. No room for them to say I ambushed them. The next few days were chaos. Harold's lawyers contacted mine, threatening legal action. My lawyers calmly explained that the investment contract included a withdrawal clause. I was within my rights. Derek showed up at my office on Wednesday. Security called to ask if they should let him up. No, I said. Tell him I'm not available. He tried calling from the lobby. I didn't answer. That night he showed up at the condo. I don't know how he found the address. Maybe he hired someone to follow me. Maybe he finally looked at our financial records and saw the property I owned. I didn't let him in. "Simone, please," he called through the door. "Just talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about, Derek. My lawyer will contact you about dividing assets." "I don't care about assets. I care about you. About us." Where was that care for the past 15 years? Where was it when your sister called me names? When your mother criticized everything I did? When your father dismissed me at every family gathering? Silence. Then, I was wrong. I should have stood up for you. I see that now. You see it because you found out I have money. That's the only thing that changed. That's not true. Isn't it? Tell me honestly, Derek. If I was still just a tech consultant making an average salary, would you be here right now? Would you care that I left? He didn't answer. That was answer enough. "Go home," I said. "The house is in my name, but I'm not going to kick you out immediately. You have 30 days to find a new place. After that, I'm selling it." Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. I heard him slide down the door, sitting on the floor in the hallway. "I love you, Simone. I know I screwed up. But I do love you." "No, you don't. You love the version of me that made your life easy. But that version was killing me." I pressed my hand against the door. "Goodbye, Derek." He sat there for another 20 minutes before finally leaving. I didn't cry. I thought I would, but I didn't. Maybe I'd done all my crying years ago, in moments so small and constant that I didn't notice them adding up. Rachel called that evening. "Harold's lawyers are backing down. They reviewed the contract and realized you're right. They can't stop you from withdrawing." "Good. How long until the company starts feeling the impact?" "Without your investment? Maybe 3 months before they run into serious trouble. 6 months before they have to make major changes. That should give them time to find alternative funding. If anyone will invest." Word is getting around about what happened at the wedding. Some people think it's hilarious. Others think the Hartwells treated you terribly. Either way, their reputation is taking a hit. I should have felt guilty. But I didn't. They'd made their choices. I was just making mine. Friday afternoon, I got an unexpected call. "Miss Cole? This is Timothy Miller, Candace's husband." I was surprised. "Mr. Miller, how can I help you?" I wanted to apologize. For my wife's behavior at our wedding. For her family's behavior. It was unacceptable. "You're apologizing for them?" "Someone should." "They won't. But I wanted you to know that not everyone in the family agreed with how you were treated." "Why didn't you say something at the wedding?" He was quiet for a moment. "Because I'm a coward. And because I didn't realize how bad it was until that night. Candace and I had a long talk. She's upset that you ruined her wedding, but I think deep down she knows she pushed you too far." "I didn't ruin her wedding. I just stopped pretending everything was fine." "I know. And honestly, I respect that. What you did took courage. Thank you for calling, Mr. Miller. Timothy, please. And Miss Cole? For what it's worth, I hope you find happiness. You deserve better than what my wife's family gave you." After I hung up, I sat at my desk thinking. Not everyone in the Hartwell family was terrible. Timothy seemed decent. But he'd still stood by and watched. Just like Derek. Good people who did nothing were almost worse than bad people who did something. Because you expected better from them. That weekend I went shopping. Not because I needed anything but because I wanted to. I bought myself expensive clothes, the kind I used to admire but never bought because I didn't want Derek's family thinking I was showing off. I got my hair done at a fancy salon. I bought new perfume. I even looked at cars, though I didn't buy one yet. I was taking up space. Being visible. Claiming the life I'd denied myself for 15 years. And it felt amazing. 2 weeks after the wedding, I received an invitation. A charity gala for a children's hospital. I donated to this cause before through my company, but always quietly. This year, they wanted to honor me publicly as one of their major benefactors. Old me would have declined. Would have stayed invisible. But new me? New me RSVP'd yes and marked her calendar. The gala was downtown at the convention center. Black tie. 300 guests. Important people from across the city. I wore a navy blue gown that fit perfectly. Simple but elegant. I had my hair styled and wore the good jewelry I'd kept hidden for years. Diamond earrings. A delicate necklace. Nothing too flashy. Just enough to look like I belonged. Rachel was my +1. She wore a beautiful silver dress and we laughed in the car on the way there. "You look amazing," she said. "Are you nervous?" "A little. But mostly excited." Any chance the Hartwell family will be there? Harold gets invited to these things, but he usually doesn't come. He's not much for charity unless there's something in it for him. But when we walked into the ballroom, I saw Derek's family across the room. Harold and Patricia were there, probably trying to repair their social reputation after the wedding disaster. Candace and Timothy too, still on their honeymoon glow. Derek was with them. He looked miserable. Good. They hadn't seen me yet. I had a moment to decide avoid them or face them head-on. I chose head-on. I was done hiding. Miss Cole. The event organizer hurried over. We're so glad you could make it. We have you seated at table 1 right up front. You'll be receiving your award right after dinner. Award? For your generous contributions over the past 5 years. You've donated over $2 million to our hospital. That deserves recognition. $2 million. I'd forgotten the exact amount. It was just something I did because it mattered, because I wanted to help children who were sick and families who were struggling. But hearing it said out loud, I realized how much I'd kept hidden. Not just from Derek's family. From everyone. We were shown to our table. Mr. Thompson was already seated there with his wife. He smiled warmly when he saw me. Miss Cole, what a pleasure. I was hoping you'd be here. He stood and shook my hand, then introduced his wife. Margaret, this is Simone Cole, the brilliant businesswoman I told you about. Margaret shook my hand warmly. I've heard wonderful things. My husband says you're one of the smartest investors he's ever worked with. We sat down and made pleasant conversation. Other people at our table introduced themselves. A doctor from the hospital. A city council member. A local news anchor. They all treated me with respect. They knew who I was. They saw me. Across the room I caught Derek's eye. He'd seen me now. Seen me at the important table. Seen me in the expensive dress. Seen me being treated like I mattered. His face went through several emotions. Confusion. Recognition. Something that might have been regret. Patricia noticed me next. She whispered something to Harold, who turned to look. His face darkened. They were sitting at table 14. Not a bad table, but nowhere near the front. That said everything about their actual importance in this room. Dinner was served. The food was excellent, but I barely tasted it. I was too aware of the Hartwell family watching me. Too aware of the moment coming when I would walk on stage and accept an award in front of 300 people. Including my soon-to-be ex-husband and his family. After dessert, the speeches began. The hospital director talked about their work, about the children they'd saved, about the families they'd helped. It was genuinely moving. Then she said, and now I'd like to recognize someone who has been instrumental in our success. Over the past 5 years, her generous donations have funded an entire new wing of our pediatric cancer center. She's chosen to remain anonymous until now, but tonight, we're honored to thank her publicly. Please welcome Simone Cole, CEO of Cole Enterprises. The room erupted in applause. I stood up, smoothed my dress and walked to the stage. The lights were bright. The applause was loud. I took the microphone from the director. Thank you, I said. My voice was steady. I'm honored to support such important work. Children shouldn't have to fight cancer, but when they do, they deserve the best care possible. They deserve hope. I looked out at the audience. At the people who were listening. At the Hartwell family who looked shocked. For a long time, I tried to help people quietly. I thought if I did good work without recognition, that was enough. But I've learned something recently. Sometimes being quiet allows others to take credit for your work. Sometimes being invisible makes it easy for people to ignore you. The room was silent. Everyone was listening. So I'm here tonight to say thank you to this hospital for seeing the work I do. For acknowledging that I matter. And I encourage everyone in this room to make sure the people in your lives know they matter too. That their contributions are seen and valued. Because everyone deserves to be visible. More applause. The director handed me a crystal plaque with my name engraved on it. We posed for photos. The flash of cameras was bright and constant. When I returned to my table, Mr. Thompson was beaming. That was a wonderful speech. Very powerful. Thank you. I meant every word. Rachel squeezed my hand under the table. You killed it, boss. After the ceremony ended, people came up to talk to me. To congratulate me. To thank me for my work. I shook hands, accepted compliments, and felt more like myself than I had in years. And then Derek appeared. Simone, can we talk? The people around us suddenly found reasons to drift away, giving us space. There's nothing to talk about, I said. Please. Just 5 minutes. You had 15 years of minutes. You wasted them. His jaw tightened. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to humiliate my family? I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. I'm just living my life. Openly. Honestly. Is that humiliating for you? You know what I mean. The wedding. The divorce. Now this. He gestured at the room. Everyone is talking about us. About how I didn't know my own wife was rich. About how my family treated you. Maybe your family should have treated me better. Patricia appeared at Derek's elbow. Simone. We need to talk about this investment situation. Harold's company is suffering because of your vindictive decision. Vindictive? I gave your family 3 years of success that you didn't earn. You couldn't even say thank you because you didn't know it was me. That's not vindictive. That's consequences. Harold joined them now. The whole family together, cornering me like I was the problem. You can't do this, Harold said. I'll sue you for breach of contract. Your lawyers already tried that. They failed. My contract is ironclad. But why? What did I ever do to you? I laughed. I couldn't help it. What did you do to me? You treated me like I was worthless for 15 years. You dismissed my opinions, talked over me, made me feel small. And you let your daughter insult me at her wedding. What did you do? Everything. Candace pushed forward. I was joking. Can't you take a joke? Calling someone a fat pig in front of 200 people isn't a joke. It's cruelty. You're being dramatic, she snapped. You always were too sensitive. No, I was too polite. There's a difference. Timothy appeared, pulling Candace back. Come on. This isn't helping. But Candace jerked away from him. She ruined my wedding. Everyone is talking about how my wedding was ruined by Derek's crazy wife. Ex-wife, I corrected. Almost. And I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending I was okay with how you treated me. Security was moving toward us now. The event organizers had noticed the confrontation. Rachel was at my side, suddenly protective. Is there a problem here? A security guard asked. No, I said. I was just leaving. Simone, please, Derek said one more time. Can't we just talk privately? I have nothing to say to you. Or to any of you. I looked at each of them, Derek, Patricia, Harold, Candace. The family that never wanted me. You all made it very clear that I would never be good enough for you. Well, congratulations. You don't have to deal with me anymore. But you also don't get my money, my help, or my silence. I'm done. I walked away. Rachel walked with me. We collected our coats and stepped outside into the cool night air. You okay? Rachel asked. I'm perfect, I said. And I meant it. The next morning my lawyer called. Mrs. Hartwell. Miss Cole, I corrected. I'm going back to my maiden name. Miss Cole. Derek's lawyer wants to negotiate the divorce settlement. They're asking for 50% of all marital assets. I laughed. Marital assets? I owned everything before we got married. I made all the money during our marriage. He contributed nothing financially. That's what I told them. But they're claiming he supported your career by managing the household. I laughed harder. He didn't manage anything. I did everything: the cleaning, the cooking, the bills, the maintenance. He played golf and complained about his job. That's what I figured. We'll fight it. But Miss Cole, there's something else. Harold's company is filing for bankruptcy. They couldn't find alternative funding fast enough. I felt a small pang of guilt. But only small. That's unfortunate. Derek is asking if you'd reconsider. He says they'll lose everything. They should have thought about that before they treated me like garbage. I'll relay that message in more professional terms. After hanging up, I tried to focus on work. But I couldn't stop thinking about the bankruptcy. About Derek losing his job. About Harold losing his company. Was I being too harsh? No. I pushed that thought away. They'd had years to treat me with basic respect. Years to see me as a person. They'd chosen not to. This was their consequence, not my fault. That afternoon, I had lunch with Mr. Thompson. He'd asked me to discuss a potential investment opportunity. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown. He was already there when I arrived, looking professional in a gray suit. Miss Cole, thank you for meeting with me. Of course. You mentioned a business opportunity? Yes, but first I want to apologize. For what happened with the Hartwell situation. If I'd known you wanted to remain anonymous, I never would have said anything at the wedding. You don't need to apologize. You did me a favor. I should have been honest years ago. Still, I feel partially responsible for the fallout. I heard about the bankruptcy filing. That's not on you. Or me, really. Harold mismanaged his company. I gave him 3 years to fix the underlying problems. He didn't. He just spent the money and took credit for the turnaround. Mr. Thompson nodded. I suspected as much. Which brings me to my proposal. My company is looking for a partner on a new venture. Renewable energy investments. It's risky but potentially very lucrative. I immediately thought of you. We spent the next hour discussing details. The opportunity was exciting. Challenging. Exactly the kind of thing I loved. I'm in, I said finally. Let's make it happen. Excellent. I'll have my lawyers draw up the papers. As we were leaving, I saw a familiar figure across the restaurant. Candace. She was having lunch with a group of women, probably her friends. She saw me and her face went red. She whispered something to her friends who all turned to look at me. I could have left. Avoided another confrontation. But I was tired of avoiding. I walked over to their table. Candace. What do you want? She was trying to sound tough, but her voice shook. I want to thank you. That surprised her. What? Thank you for calling me a fat pig at your wedding. Thank you for making it so clear how your family saw me. Because if you hadn't, I might have stayed quiet for another 15 years. I might have kept trying to fit into a family that never wanted me. Her friends were watching with wide eyes. This was better than reality TV. You ruined my wedding, Candace said. Everyone talks about it now. Nobody remembers the ceremony or the dress or anything good. They just remember you causing a scene. I didn't cause a scene. I told the truth. If the truth ruined your wedding, maybe you should think about why that is. You're vindictive and cruel. You destroyed my father's company out of spite. No. Your father destroyed his own company by mismanaging it. I gave him a lifeline. He wasted it. One of Candace's friends spoke up. I think what you did was brave. My family treats me like crap too. I wish I had the courage to stand up to them like you did. Another friend nodded. Yeah, honestly? That video from your wedding went viral, Candace. Most people are on Simone's side. Candace's face went even redder. You're supposed to be my friends. We are your friends. That's why we're being honest. You were mean to her. Your whole family was. You can't be surprised that she finally had enough. I didn't wait to see how that conversation ended. I walked away feeling lighter than ever. That evening, I was home at my condo when my building's front desk called. Miss Cole, there's a Patricia Hartwell here to see you. Should I send her up? My mother-in-law. This should be interesting. Send her up. I opened the door when she knocked. Patricia looked smaller than I remembered. Older. She was wearing a designer suit, but it looked worn. Like she'd had it for years. Patricia. May I come in? I stepped aside. She entered and looked around my condo with obvious surprise. This is lovely. How long have you had this place? 3 years. 3 years. And you never mentioned it. You never asked about my life. Only how I could serve yours. She flinched. I deserve that. May I sit? Go ahead. We sat in my living room. She perched on the edge of my couch, uncomfortable. I came to ask you to reconsider withdrawing your investment. Harold's company is failing. Derek lost his job. We might lose our house. I know. Don't you care? Derek is your husband. Derek is my soon-to-be ex-husband. And you're asking me to care about your financial situation. When have any of you cared about me? We cared. We welcomed you into our family. You tolerated me. There's a difference. You criticized my clothes, my cooking, my job, my weight, my everything. For 15 years. You made me feel like I was lucky to be part of your family when really, you were lucky to have me. And you didn't even know it. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I know I wasn't always kind. But I'm asking you, woman to woman, please help us. We're desperate. Where was this desperation when your daughter called me names? Where was it when Harold talked over me at every dinner? Where was it when Derek let all of you treat me like I was worthless? We made mistakes. But does that mean we deserve to lose everything? I stood up. I'm not taking everything from you. I'm just taking back what's mine. The money I invested. The support I gave. The patience I wasted. You still have each other. You still have your family. That should be enough, right? Since family is so important to you? Patricia stood too. You're heartless. No. I just stopped letting you break my heart. She walked to the door then turned back. Derek really does love you, you know? No, he doesn't. He loves the idea of me. The woman who made his life comfortable. But he never loved the real me because he never knew the real me. He never wanted to. After she left, I sat by the window and watched the city lights. I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief. Sadness. Freedom. Guilt. But mostly I felt right. Like I was finally on the correct path after years of being lost. My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel. Saw the news. Hartwell Industries officially filed for bankruptcy. You okay? I texted back. I'm good. How's the renewable energy project looking? Amazing. Thompson's team sent over the preliminary numbers. This could be huge. Good. Let's focus on that. On building something new instead of trying to fix something broken. That's the spirit, boss. I put my phone down and smiled. The Hartwell family was falling apart. And I wasn't there to catch them. For the first time in 15 years, that wasn't my problem. The bankruptcy of Hartwell Industries made local business news. Small article, nothing major, but enough that people noticed. Enough that people talked. I got calls from former business associates of Harold's. Some were checking if I was okay. Others were asking if I had investment opportunities available. Everyone in the business community knew now that I was the mysterious investor who'd saved the company years ago. My reputation grew. Cole Enterprises started getting more attention, more opportunities. Apparently, being publicly vindicated against a family who'd treated you badly made you look strong. Made you look like someone worth doing business with. There was something darkly funny about it. I'd been invisible and successful for years. But the moment I stopped hiding, the moment I stood up for myself, suddenly everyone wanted to work with me. Derek called me 14 times in 3 days. I didn't answer. Finally, he showed up at my office. Rachel buzzed me. Derek's here. Security is asking if they should remove him. No, it's fine. Send him up. But stay close just in case. Derek walked into my office looking terrible. He'd lost weight. Had dark circles under his eyes. His clothes were wrinkled. Simone, thank you for seeing me. I'm only seeing you because we need to finalize the divorce. My lawyer has been trying to reach yours. I fired my lawyer. I can't afford him anymore. I felt a flicker of something. Not quite sympathy. But not satisfaction either. I'm sorry you lost your job. Are you? Because you caused it. No, Derek. Your father's mismanagement caused it. I just stopped enabling it. He collapsed into a chair without being invited. We lost everything. The house. The cars. My parents' retirement accounts. Everything they built. They didn't build anything. I built it. They just took credit. But did they deserve to lose everything? Does my mother deserve to lose her home? Does Candace deserve to have her marriage stressed because Timothy is questioning why he married into a bankrupt family? Maybe they should have thought about that before they treated me the way they did. Derek looked up at me. Do you even care? Do you feel anything about what's happening to us? I feel sad that it came to this. I feel angry that it had to come to this. But I don't feel guilty if that's what you're asking. We were your family. No, Derek. You were people I was related to by marriage. Family supports each other. Family defends each other. Family sees each other. You all failed at every level. He put his face in his hands. I know I messed up. I know I should have stood up for you. I know I should have believed in you. But I'm asking you, please help my parents. They're old. They're scared. My mom cries every day. Where were your tears when your sister called me a fat pig? Where was your concern when your mother suggested I skip dessert? Where was your protection when your father dismissed everything I said? I was weak. I was stupid. I was wrong. Is that what you want to hear? I don't want to hear anything from you, Derek. I want you to sign the divorce papers and move on with your life. What life? I have nothing. I'm living in a studio apartment because I can't afford anything else. I'm working at a call center because nobody will hire me for anything better. The Hartwell name is worthless now. Then build a new name. Build something for yourself. Like I did. He looked at me with something close to hatred. You planned this. You wanted revenge. I wanted respect. I wanted to be seen. I wanted the man I married to love me enough to defend me. I sat down across from him. I didn't plan for your sister to insult me at her wedding. I didn't plan for your family to treat me terribly. I just decided I was done accepting it. That's not revenge. That's self-respect. You're destroying innocent people. Your parents are adults who made choices. Your sister is an adult who made choices. You're an adult who made choices. The only innocent people in this situation are the ones you're worried about now after the consequences hit. Where was this concern when you had the chance to treat me better? Derek stood up. I can't talk to you. You've become someone I don't recognize. Good. Because the person you thought you knew was a woman who'd shrunk herself to fit into your family. The real me is the woman standing in front of you. The one who built a successful company. The one who saved your father's business. The one who finally got tired of being invisible. This is who I've always been. You just never looked. He walked to the door, then paused. I really did love you, you know? No, Derek. You loved having me. There's a difference. After he left, Rachel came in. You okay? I'm fine. Actually, I'm better than fine. He looked rough. He'll figure it out. He's an adult. You're not going to help him at all? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No. Helping him now would just teach him that he can treat people badly and still get rewarded. He needs to learn this lesson. They all do. Harsh. But fair. That's what I'm going for. That week I received a letter from Candace. Handwritten. Surprising. Dear Simone. I'm writing because everyone tells me I should apologize. My therapist, who I'm seeing now because my marriage is falling apart, says I need to take responsibility for my actions. So here it is. I'm sorry I called you a fat pig at my wedding. I'm sorry I was mean to you for years. I'm sorry I treated you like you were less than me. But I'm also angry. You could have handled this differently. You could have pulled me aside and told me I'd hurt your feelings. Instead, you destroyed my father's company and my family's reputation. My husband is talking about annulment. He says he married into a family of bullies and he won't be part of it. My mother cries all the time. My father sits in the dark staring at nothing. Was your revenge worth all this pain? I don't expect you to care. You've made it clear you don't. But I want you to know that actions have consequences. You taught us that. But you're learning it too. Candace, I read the letter 3 times. Then I wrote back. Candace, thank you for your letter and your apology. I accept the apology for what it is, a recognition that you were wrong. But I disagree with the rest of your letter. I didn't destroy your father's company. He did that by mismanaging it for years. I didn't destroy your family's reputation. Your family did that by treating people badly and assuming there would be no consequences. You say I could have pulled you aside and told you that you hurt my feelings. I did. Many times over the years. Not just you but your whole family. You all ignored me. Or laughed. Or told me I was too sensitive. As for your husband talking about annulment, maybe he's seeing who you really are. Maybe he's realizing that the person he married isn't the person he thought she was. That's not my fault. That's yours. Your mother cries. Your father sits in the dark. And I'm supposed to feel guilty about this? Where were your tears for me? Where was your concern when I was the one being hurt? You say actions have consequences. You're right. Your actions had consequences. Those consequences hurt your family. But that's not on me. That's on you. I hope you learn from this. I hope you become a better person. But you won't do that by blaming me for your family's failures. Simone. I mailed the letter and didn't think about it again. 2 months after the wedding, Mr. Thompson's renewable energy deal was finalized. Cole Enterprises was now a major investor in one of the most exciting projects in the country. The press coverage was extensive. My photo was in the business section. My name was in articles. I was visible. Completely, totally visible. And it felt incredible. Rachel and I celebrated at an expensive restaurant. To new beginnings, she said, raising her glass. To being seen, I countered. We clinked glasses and laughed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw your article in the Business Journal. I'm proud of you. You always deserved better. Timothy. I smiled. At least one person from that family had a conscience. The divorce was finalized 3 months after I left the wedding. Derek signed the papers without fighting. He couldn't afford a legal battle, and my lawyers made it clear he wouldn't win anyway. I walked out of the courthouse a free woman. Single. Successful. Finally, fully myself. Rachel was waiting at the bottom of the steps. How does it feel? Like I can breathe again. We went back to the office. I had work to do, deals to close, a business to run. The Hartwell family drama faded into the background. I heard through the grapevine that Harold had found a job at a smaller company. Patricia was working part-time at a boutique. Derek was still at the call center but looking for something better. Candace and Timothy were in marriage counseling. Apparently he hadn't gone through with the annulment, but he'd made it clear things needed to change. They were all figuring out their lives without me. Without my money. Without my support. And I was figuring out mine. For the first time in 15 years, I wasn't carrying their weight. I wasn't trying to fit into their mold. I wasn't hiding who I was to make them comfortable. I was just me. Simone Cole. Businesswoman. Investor. Philanthropist. Woman who took no crap from anyone. And I was happy. 6 months after Candace's wedding, my business was thriving. The renewable energy project was exceeding projections. I'd been featured in 3 major business publications. Forbes had called me one of the most influential investors under 40. I'd also started dating. Nothing serious. Just getting back into the world of being seen, being appreciated, being valued for who I was. His name was Julian, a pediatric surgeon I'd met at a hospital fundraiser. He was kind, funny, successful in his own right. He asked questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. He treated me like I mattered. It was refreshing. It was nice. It was everything Derek had never been. We'd been seeing each other for 2 months when he invited me to dinner at his place. He actually cooked, not ordered takeout, and we talked for hours. "Tell me about your ex-husband," he said over dessert. "What do you want to know? Why did it end? If you're comfortable sharing." I told him the story. Not all of it, but enough. The invisible years. The family that dismissed me. The wedding that broke the camel's back. Julian listened without interrupting. When I finished, he reached across the table and took my hand. That must have been incredibly painful. It was. But it also freed me. "Do you regret any of it? The way you handled it?" I thought about it. No. I wish it hadn't been necessary. I wish they treated me better from the start. But I don't regret standing up for myself. Good. You shouldn't. You deserve to be with people who see your worth. Like you. He smiled. I like to think so. We kissed that night. Slow, sweet, full of promise. Nothing rushed. Nothing desperate. Just two people finding each other at the right time. I drove home feeling light. Feeling happy. Feeling like maybe there was a chance for real love after all. But when I got to my condo, Derek was waiting in the lobby. "Simone, I need to talk to you." I sighed. "Derek, we're divorced. There's nothing to talk about. Please. 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let him come up. He looked better than the last time I'd seen him. He'd gained some weight back. His clothes were neat. He'd gotten a haircut. "You look good," I said. "Thanks. I'm doing better. I got a new job. Account management at a tech startup. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work and I like it. I'm happy for you. I wanted to tell you that in person. And to say I'm sorry. Really sorry. Not because I want something from you. But because you deserve to hear it." I was quiet, waiting. "I was a terrible husband," Derek continued. "I took you for granted. I let my family treat you badly. I never defended you when you needed me. I didn't believe in you when I should have. I was weak and selfish and stupid. Yes, you were. I'm not asking for another chance. I know that ship has sailed. But I wanted you to know that I understand now. I understand what I lost. And I'm working on being a better person. Not for you. For me. That's good, Derek. Really. I also wanted to tell you that my family is getting help. Therapy. My mom especially. She's dealing with a lot of guilt about how she treated you. She should feel guilty. I know. But she's trying to change. They all are. Candace has apologized to like a dozen people she's been mean to over the years. Harold volunteers at a food bank now. They're trying to be better. Good for them. Genuinely. Derek stood up to leave. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for listening. And Simone? I hope you find happiness. Real happiness. You deserve it. After he left, I sat on my couch thinking. People could change. Maybe the Hartwell family was really trying. Maybe they'd learned their lesson. But that didn't mean I needed to be part of their journey. They could grow and change without me. That was their responsibility, not mine. My phone rang. "Julian. Hey, I just wanted to make sure you got home safe." I did. "Thank you for tonight. It was wonderful. I was thinking there's a charity gala next month. Would you be my date?" I smiled. "I'd love that." We talked for another hour. About nothing and everything. About his work, my work, our families, our dreams. It felt easy. Natural. Right. When we finally hung up, I looked around my condo. My space. My life. My choice. The next morning, I was at my office early. Rachel brought coffee and we reviewed the week's schedule. "You seem happy," she said. "I am." Julian? Work. Life. Everything. I feel like I'm finally where I'm supposed to be. You deserve it, boss. After everything you went through, you really deserve it. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Patricia. I wanted to thank you for the work you did saving Harold's company years ago. I know we didn't appreciate it then, but I appreciate it now. I hope you're well." I stared at the text for a long moment. Then I replied, "Thank you for saying so. I hope you're well too." Short, polite, final. I didn't need a relationship with Patricia, but I also didn't need to be cruel. They were learning their lessons. I was moving on with my life. That was enough. Later that week, I was interviewed for a podcast about women in business. The host asked about my success, my strategy, my advice for other entrepreneurs. Then she asked, "You were recently divorced. Some people online say you used your business success to get revenge on your ex-husband's family. How do you respond to that?" I'd been expecting this question. I'd prepared for it. "I didn't use my success to get revenge," I said. "I used my success to stop enabling bad behavior. There's a difference. For years, I invested in a company owned by my father-in-law. I did it anonymously because I wanted to help my family. But they treated me badly. They disrespected me. They made me feel worthless. When I finally stood up for myself, they faced the consequences of their own actions. That's not revenge. That's accountability. Some people might say you were too harsh, that you destroyed a family business and hurt innocent people. I didn't destroy anything. I withdrew my support from a business that wasn't being managed properly. If a business can't survive without one investor, that's a business problem, not an investor problem. As for innocent people, we're all responsible for our actions. My ex-husband's family chose to treat me badly. They're experiencing the results of that choice. Do you regret any of it? I regret that it was necessary. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I spent 15 years being invisible, being dismissed, being treated like I didn't matter. I refuse to live like that anymore. The interview went viral. Thousands of people commented, sharing their own stories of family members who took them for granted, spouses who didn't appreciate them, relatives who dismissed their worth. I became, somewhat accidentally, a voice for people who'd been invisible. And I used that platform to talk about business, yes, but also about self-worth, about knowing your value, about refusing to accept less than you deserve. One comment stuck with me. My mom stayed in a marriage where my dad's family treated her terribly for 30 years. She died never standing up for herself. I wish she'd had the courage you have. Thank you for showing women that it's okay to walk away. That comment made me cry. Happy tears. Sad tears. Grateful tears. I hadn't just changed my own life. I'd given other people permission to change theirs. 1 year after Candace's wedding, I was invited to speak at a women's business conference. The ballroom was packed with hundreds of women, all eager to hear about building successful companies. I stood at the podium and looked out at the audience. I saw faces of all ages, all backgrounds, all at different stages of their careers. A year ago, I was invisible. I had a successful business, but nobody in my personal life knew about it. I'd built something incredible, but I kept it hidden. Why? Because I was afraid. Afraid of being seen. Afraid of taking up space. Afraid of making other people uncomfortable with my success. The room was silent. Everyone was listening. Then something happened that changed everything. My sister-in-law called me a fat pig at her wedding. And I realized I was done. Done being invisible. Done making myself small. Done accepting disrespect from people who should have valued me. I told them my story. Not all the painful details, but enough. The secret investment. The anonymous help. The years of being dismissed. The moment I decided to stop hiding. Standing up for yourself has consequences, I said. Sometimes those consequences hurt. Sometimes they're messy. Sometimes people you love get angry. But the alternative, staying invisible, accepting disrespect, hiding who you are, those consequences hurt more. They just hurt quietly, slowly, in ways that are hard to see until you're so small you've almost disappeared. I talked about coal enterprises, about the renewable energy project, about the charitable work I did openly now. Success isn't just about money, I said. It's about living authentically. It's about being seen. It's about refusing to shrink yourself to fit into someone else's idea of who you should be. The applause when I finished was thunderous. Women stood cheering. Some were crying. After the speech, I signed books. I'd written a memoir about my journey that had become a bestseller. Women lined up to talk to me, to share their stories, to thank me for giving them courage. One woman, probably in her 50s, grabbed my hand. I've been married for 28 years. My husband's family treats me the way yours treated you. After hearing your story, I'm leaving. I'm done being invisible. Good for you, I said. You deserve better. Another woman, younger, maybe late 20s. I'm starting my own business, but I'm afraid to tell my boyfriend. He says I should focus on getting a real job. After hearing you, I'm going to do it anyway. Do it, I said. And if he can't support your dreams, find someone who will. Julian was waiting for me when the event ended. He'd come to watch my speech. He was beaming with pride. You were incredible, he said, kissing me. Those women love you. I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the most powerful thing you can do. We had dinner that night at our favorite restaurant. We'd been together for almost a year now. He'd met my friends, I'd met his family. They were lovely, supportive, interested, respectful. Everything the Hartwell family hadn't been. I have something to tell you, Julian said over dessert. Okay. I'm being recruited by a hospital in Seattle. It's an amazing opportunity. More money, better facilities, cutting-edge research. My heart sank. Are you taking it? That depends. On what? On whether you'd consider coming with me. I know your business is here. I know your life is here. But I also know that we're good together. Really good. And I don't want to lose that. I sat back thinking. Cole Enterprises could operate from anywhere. Rachel could run the day-to-day here. I could split my time. Or move completely. Nothing was tying me to this city except history. And history was exactly what I was trying to leave behind. I'll come with you, I said. Julian's face lit up. Really? Really? Why not? It's a new adventure. A fresh start. A chance to build something new in a place where nobody knows my story. They'll know your story, he said. You're famous now. But they'll know you as Simone Cole, the businesswoman and author. Not as someone's ex-wife. Even better. We moved to Seattle 2 months later. I kept my condo in my old city for business trips, but bought a house in Seattle with Julian. A beautiful place with a view of the water. Cole Enterprises opened a Seattle office. The business kept growing. I started getting speaking requests from across the country. My book was being translated into 6 languages. And I was happy. Genuinely, authentically happy. I still got occasional emails from the Hartwell family. Derek sent me a Christmas card that year with a photo of him and a new girlfriend. They looked happy. The card said, "Thank you for teaching me what real love should look like. I hope you found yours." Candace sent an email saying she and Timothy were expecting a baby. They'd worked through their issues and were stronger for it. She said, "You were right. I was a bully. I'm trying to be better. Thank you for holding up a mirror, even though I hated what I saw." Patricia wrote occasionally. Short notes. Asking how I was doing. Telling me about her life. I responded politely but briefly. We would never be close, but we were civil. Harold never reached out. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he'd found success with a smaller company. He was humbler now, apparently. More careful about how he treated people. I was glad they were all doing better. Genuinely. But their growth wasn't my concern anymore. 2 years after Candace's wedding, Julian proposed. We were hiking in the mountains and he got down on one knee with a ring that took my breath away. "Simone Cole, will you marry me? I promise to see you every day. To celebrate your success. To support your dreams. To never let you be invisible again." I said yes through happy tears. We got married 6 months later. Small ceremony on the beach with close friends and family. No drama. No stress. Just love and celebration. Rachel was my maid of honor. Julian's sister stood up with him. It was perfect. During the reception I gave a toast. 3 years ago, I thought I knew what marriage was supposed to be. I thought it was about compromise and fitting in and making yourself smaller to keep the peace. Then I learned something important. Real love doesn't make you smaller. It makes you bigger. It celebrates who you are. It sees you. Thank you, Julian, for seeing me. For loving the real me. For making me want to be visible. Everyone clinked their glasses. Someone shouted, "To being visible." The crowd echoed, "To being visible." I looked around at the people gathered there. Real friends. True family. People who knew me and loved me anyway. People who celebrated my success instead of resenting it. This was what I'd been looking for all along. Not revenge. Not vindication. Just people who saw me and valued me exactly as I was. Later that night, dancing with Julian under the stars, he whispered in my ear. "Happy. Incredibly. Any regrets?" I thought about it. About Derek. About the Hartwell family. About the years I spent invisible. No regrets. Everything I went through led me here. Led me to you. Led me to myself. "Good," he said. "Because I have big plans for us. Our future is going to be amazing." And he was right. My business continued to grow. I wrote a second book about women in leadership. I started a mentorship program for young female entrepreneurs. I gave speeches around the world. But more than professional success, I found personal peace. I found love. I found myself. I learned that being seen isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest. It's about taking up space unapologetically. It's about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. I learned that revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about building yourself. It's about refusing to carry the weight of other people's disrespect. I learned that happiness comes when you stop trying to fit into other people's stories and start writing your own. 5 years after Candace's wedding, I received an invitation. Harold was retiring and the family was throwing him a party. They wanted me to come. I showed the invitation to Julian. What do you think? Do you want to go? Part of me is curious. Part of me thinks it's better to leave the past in the past. What does your gut say? I thought about it. About seeing Derek again. About being in a room with the Hartwell family. About reopening that chapter of my life even briefly. My gut says I don't need closure. I already have everything I need right here. I declined the invitation politely. Wished Harold well. Moved on with my life. Because that's the thing about revenge. Real revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about building a life so full, so happy, so authentic that they become irrelevant. And my life was incredible. My business was thriving. My marriage was strong. My future was bright. I was visible. I was valued. I was loved. And I was finally, completely, wonderfully free. The woman who once let her sister-in-law call her a fat pig at a wedding was gone. In her place stood Simone Cole, CEO, author, philanthropist, wife, woman who took no crap from anyone. And that woman? She was living her best life. Every single day.